For those of you watching this on YouTube, let me show you this really quick clip about the importance of using a short electrical stick out with short circuit MIG welding, and then we'll get into the meat of the podcast. Using too long a stick out creates a lot of problems. Number one, the wire electrically heats up from resistance, melts off at a different rate, and it can exaggerate if you have kind of a bad ground. You see here I'm sputtering like crazy, and it's piling up, not doing a good job. The only thing I'm going to do different here is use a much shorter stick out, and I'd like to have it just a little bit shorter, but I didn't want the nozzle to get in the way of the arc shot. But I think you can see quite a difference in those two beads. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I've got a quick story to help you remember it more. I think stories kind of stick with us sometimes more than just facts. Before we get into the meat of the podcast though, let me give you a quick health update because a lot of people have been asking in the comments and by email. As most of you know, I've been going through leukemia treatments for the past 18 months. Started off with a heavy session of chemo and then some follow-up chemo, a bone marrow transplant about 8 months ago, follow-up chemo after that. And right now I'm looking at my last session of chemo coming up in a few weeks. And I'm really looking forward to getting past all that and then getting to where I can kind of get on a roll and recover fully and recuperate. And I know it's going to take a while, but it's going to be great to know that I've got all that chemo behind me. I'm most of the time I'm feeling pretty good, but I have my days, and it's been quite a booger, to be honest with you. But I'm getting there, and so I appreciate your prayers so much. So many of you have said that you would pray for me and have prayed for me, and that means a lot to me. It means the world to me, and I believe that one of the reasons I'm here today is because of prayer. 100%. All right, now here's a quick story that I hope will illustrate just how important, what a difference contact tip to work distance can make. Using the correct stick out, the correct electrical stick out when you're using short circuit MIG makes a big difference. When I was working in Atlanta at Delta Tech Ops, I was in charge of welding training and certification. And Northwest Airlines, before Delta and Northwest merged, Northwest Airlines had a shop, a certain level of mechanics over across the road from us in a hangar equipment type mechanics. So predominantly they maintained, repaired, modified hangar equipment. That could mean anything from a wing stand to a platform to a jack, just whatever it took. And they felt uncomfortable not having any certification, so they inquired with us about getting certified. Our managements came to some kind of an agreement that we would go across the street and give them a 3G and a 4G plate test on short circuit MIG to our procedure. You know, short circuit MIG is one of those processes where you don't have pre-qualified procedures, so you have to qualify them yourselves, and it's kind of a lengthy process of tensile pulls and it's a lot more stringent, a lot more lengthy test than a straight up certification test. But we had done that already at Delta. We had that on file. Their engineering authority agreed they would accept our procedures. The D17 code has a provision for ground equipment certification, so we were operating under that. It gives the engineering authority a lot of leeway. So we went over there. We brought a whole bunch of test plates with us from Triangle Engineering, pre-beveled plates, all ready to go. And so it was kind of a slow go because we had a good 6 guys we needed to certify, 2 plates each, and it was really going really slow. Well, I noticed another welding machine over in the corner. We were using a Millermatic 250, I believe, for the main machine, but then I noticed an older machine, a Millermatic 200, an MM200 over there. And I asked them about it, and they said, we hate that machine. We don't like that. It welds like crap. I said, well, can I take a look at it? So went over there, took a look at it, and got everything hooked up. Everything seemed to be okay, but when I looked down in the nozzle, that contact tip was recessed at least a 1/4 inch past flush. And I knew from my experience, I had really gotten into going down the rabbit hole on short circuit MIG, the importance of stick out. I'd watched some videos from Ed Craig, who's M. Craig now, and He was big on stick out, on short circuit MIG, how important it was. And I verified it myself through using ammeters and tests, bend tests and all that. Stick out is really important for short circuit MIG. And having a stick out that long, because the contact tip is recessed so far back in the nozzle, I knew that was going to give them some problems. So I saw they had a lathe there. I asked one of the guys, hey, does that lathe work? Yeah. Well, can you take, first off, I asked him, hey, you have any longer contact tips? Nope. You have any shorter nozzles? Nope. That's all we got. So you're not using this machine anyway. You don't like it, so you won't mind turning down this nozzle a little bit, shortening it up. Can you put this on the lathe and spin it down a little bit? And so he did, turned it down to where the contact tip now was just slightly protruding, about a 1/16 of an inch past flush. That's how I like it for most work, personally. That lets me have a short stick out on fillet welds where the nozzle would bump on the metal and prevent you from getting a very short stick out if you had that tip recessed way back up in there. So anyway, I got the machine set like I liked it, and I said, hey, all right, try running a bead and tell me if you notice any difference from the way it used to weld. And one of the guys lit up and he couldn't believe it. He said, this is like a whole new machine. So, and I knew that machine had a good arc. That Millermatic 200, those had a reputation for having one of the sweetest arcs of any machine at the time. And so I knew something had to be up with it. I didn't know for sure that was going to be it. But when I saw that, I thought, man. Now I recognize that because I had been digging into that, and I had been teaching people, and I had been studying. I'd verified it through testing. I'd watch videos on talking about stick out, which were not very easy to get at the time. We're talking about VCR, VHS tapes, you know, back in that time frame. That particular video wasn't even, I don't think it was even available on DVD yet. But anyway, all I remember is I remember watching that video, and it stuck with me. If somebody just said, hey, you need to use a short stick out, I don't know that would have stuck with me. But watching the video, proving it out to myself by time and time again, test welds, it stuck with me. And that's why I'm telling this story today, so that it will stick with you. So we set up both those machines, got done way quicker, got all the guys through their bend test. It was fun getting to know those guys and see how they ran their shop, and just, you know, stretch and grow a little bit. Getting outside the four walls of the shop that I worked in, that's always a help. So I guess the takeaway here is, if you got a MIG welding machine and you just can't get it dialed in, no matter what you do, no matter what settings you use, the arc is just not good. It's not smooth. Take a look at the stick out. Take a look at how the nozzle and the contact tip are configured. Now, I'm not saying trim your nozzle. You can probably find a matching set, a nozzle and a contact tip that provide, you know, where that contact tip is about flush, maybe even sticking out a little bit. That's how I prefer it. But I think that is one of the biggest things for short circuit MIG on how it runs, because that wire sticking out too far, there is electrical resistance. The wire heats up, it softens the arc up, it doesn't have as much punch or drive. And if you're trying to get penetration into a fillet weld with short circuit MIG, you need punch and drive. You don't need a soft, wimpy arc from that long stick out heating up and blobbing in there. Okay, there's more to short circuit MIG, obviously, than just a short stick out. I'll just talk about briefly a few of the other main things here. But this podcast is mainly just, you know, that story and how important electrical stick out is. But some of the other really important things are cleaning the mill scale if it's heavy mill scale. I'm not talking about cleaning the mill scale off of 1-inch square tubing or 2-inch, you know, that's light mill scale that, you know, you can penetrate right through with MIG. But when you're talking about 3/8 hot rolled plate or 1/2 inch or, you know, hot rolled plate, something like that, that mill scale really needs to be removed down to clean, bright metal to get good results with short circuit MIG. Another thing is a good ground. You know, the most MIG welding machines don't care whether they lose a ground. They're going to keep pumping wire out. So it's more important, I think, on short circuit MIG than almost any other process that you have a really good ground. And the way to do that is make sure your ground clamp is not connected to any place that's got hot rolled on it or paint or any other coating. You want to clean off an area where it makes a really good contact. It might be worth investing in a better ground clamp. You know, they have all kinds of different kinds and they're not all created equal. A lot of companies will try to save a buck by making a really cheap plated wimpy ground clamp that doesn't even hardly have any copper on it. So, you know, there are some hacks. You can even wad up a big piece of braided copper bare wire from an old welding lathe. That can really help if you got a crappy ground clamp, but you need a good ground with short circuit MIG. Another thing is using the right settings. You know, they don't have to be perfect, but they need to be close. And what I mean when I say that is, don't set a really cold setting just for the sake of a pretty weld. You got to shoot for a strong, properly penetrated weld above all. You make it pretty if you can, but the main thing is to make it strong. Okay, those are probably really most of the main things. There's tons of things you could talk about to optimize the process: gun angle, inductance, all these things like that. And you know, that leaves room for another podcast. Maybe I can have somebody that's got more expertise than me in welding certain joints and certain positions and things like that, or in a different industry. It's always fun to have a guest on here. I've got somebody coming to mind right now. So we'll see if we can't get that guest on here, and we'll dig in deeper into short circuit MIG. Hey, I have some free resources for you. Good resources. I'm not talking about some chintzy AI slop just for a free download. These are things that I worked on for a long time. I've got hundreds of hours invested in these PDFs. All of them have thumbnails that will link to videos along with some text, just some basic tips. I've got one on short circuit MIG welding. I've got them on TIG aluminum. Now I'm working on one for students on stick welding, and I'll have that out pretty soon. But these are free resources, absolutely free. All I need is your email. I'll send you a link to download it. Free because I want to give back, but also I want you to come to weldmonger.com and see all the other gear we have. And since we talked about MIG welding, short circuit MIG welding in this podcast, I have a short circuit MIG fast track course for you. It's a PDF download. It's got 6 videos on it. 6 simple videos. Most of them are only about 3 to 4 minutes long. Okay, it's all 1/4 inch. It's all short circuit MIG. It's horizontal, vertical, and overhead, lap joint, and T-joint. So that's 6 total videos. Here's a real quick sampling of those videos. All of them have crisp arc shots. All of them have settings verified by cut and etch macro tests. Really quick, short videos with clear arc shots and really simple explanations. No fluff, no AI slop. Just a simple video that takes you to a page on my blog with the video along with some settings. They're absolutely free, but of course, I hope you'll shop weldmonger.com for your welding gear. Right now, I want to give you a little peek inside of that fast track short circuit MIG course, and then you can decide if it's something you'd be interested in. You can download this fast track PDF guide to either your phone or desktop. If you download it to your phone, it'll be way better than a MIG calculator because it also shows arc shots, techniques, and different positions instead of just flat and horizontal. Here's a quick peek of a vertical uphill lap joint. Vertical and overhead is where I've seen a whole lot of people struggle, so I really focused on those 2 positions. It's organized and laid out with a nice table of contents, and it's free. I'll put the link in the description that'll take you right to the download page. Or you can just go to weldmonger.com and search for workbooks in the search bar. These are set up just like products, except they have a $0 cost, so you just add them to the cart and check out, and then you'll receive a link for the download in your inbox. That's it.